The Indiana Pacers are going to take on the Dallas Mavericks tonight at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. That game's 7 o'clock on Fox Sports Indiana. The Mavericks without Luka Doncic, which kind of sucks because I'd like to see Doncic play. This is his only visit to Indianapolis this season. He isn't going to play. He's got a sprained ankle, and so there you go. T.J. Warren is not going to play for the Pacers. He suffered a head injury on Saturday night against the Knicks, and so he's going to be out this game as he deals with being immersed in the concussion protocol. So you've got both of these teams, both without a starter. Doncic, obviously a more important player to the Mavericks, being a top 5 guy in the NBA today than Warren, but still, you don't want to face a team like the Mavericks without T.J. Warren. We'll see what the starting lineup is going to be for the Indiana Pacers, whether Oladipo moves into the starting lineup or they insert a guy like Doug McDermott into that 3-hole, or maybe Justin Holiday. We'll see. Either way, you got to find a way to win this game in a way that they were unable to on Saturday night against the New York Knicks. Victor Oladipo being reinserted into this lineup and being an active participant, it hasn't gone terribly well so far for the Pacers. Against the Bulls, it took an Oladipo 3, his only 3 of the night, has only made 3 in 7 attempts from 28 feet with 9 seconds left to force overtime, an overtime that the Pacers dominated against the Bulls. But then they lose against the Knicks. Victor, 2 of 14. That's not good. The Pacers cannot win with one of their players being 2 of 14. Malcolm Brogdon, he wasn't terribly good either. He missed a bunch of shots. But it's Victor Oladipo and the accommodation of Victor Oladipo before he's ready really to compete at the highest possible level that's causing this team some turmoil. You've got to get him back into game action to get him ready to play in games. That's just the way it works. It's one of those things. You can't just have this guy practice and practice and practice and practice and then suddenly think that he's going to be okay in games. You've also got to have him in games. The Pacers have tried to figure out a way to do that in a way that mitigates the negatives with Vic. But if he's going to take 14 shots and make 2 of them, it doesn't matter how his leg feels. What matters is the Pacers are going to lose that game. So hopefully tonight, Oladipo kind of clears his head, feels like he's 1 of 5 on the floor rather than trying to prove that he's the best of the 5 on the floor. I know that he thinks, you know what, I'm Victor Oladipo. I've got the Mamba mentality, all of that stuff. But what he's really got to be is a member of this team. He's got to find a way to be a part of this culture, this you-first culture instead of a me-first culture that has led the Indiana Pacers to be what they've been over the course of the first 50 games of this season, or nearly 50 games of this season, and that's one of the best 10 teams in it. Victor Oladipo should make them better, not worse, and if it takes time for Victor Oladipo to figure out where he fits, that's okay. If it don't fit, don't force it. The Pacers, they're facing the trade deadline coming up, just like all other NBA teams. The trade deadline coming up 3 o'clock Eastern on Thursday. Are the Pacers going to be active? Are they going to make moves prior to the deadline that augment what they currently have? I don't believe that they will. I think maybe they move a non-rotational player like a TJ Leaf, just to clear the decks of TJ Leaf, give him a chance to play someplace else, because clearly they have no plans to play him here. If you can get some draft equity, a second rounder, 2 second rounders, whatever, for TJ Leaf, I think you go ahead and do that. We'll see what Kevin Pritchard's thinking, but I can count 5, at least 5. I'm going to list 5 reasons why the Pacers are not going to be active in a substantial way prior to the trade deadline in making moves that enhance their roster moving toward that time where they're going to qualify for the playoffs or not. Number 5, and they are going to be in the playoffs. I mean, it's virtually impossible that at this point they would lose so many games that they would fall completely out of the playoffs. Number 5, Nate McMillan has a low threshold for drama. Moves are going to be made not with Nate McMillan's permission, but with Nate McMillan saying, yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think this guy will make our team better. All right, that's the kind of guidance that I think Kevin Pritchard's going to look for with Nate McMillan. Nate McMillan does not like drama. It's easy to read Nate McMillan when he's talking to the media. Easy. He's either happy or he's not happy. And when there's drama, he is really not happy. Trades, they can bring drama. We saw what happened in February of 2014 when Danny Granger went to the 76ers in exchange for Evan Turner and Lavoy Allen. There was drama with the Pacers. They had a terrific record at that point, I think 41-13, and they finished 15-13. The Pacers, they're not looking for drama. At least Nate McMillan isn't. And they got enough drama as it is with Victor Oladipo trying to find his way back into the fabric of this on-court product that the Pacers are utilizing to try to win games. Number 4, the Pacers have few pieces to deal. They got one guy with an expiring contract. That's Justin Holiday. That's the only expiring contract that they have among rotational players. Draft-wise, they traded their first rounder in 2020 for Malcolm Brogdon. That's protected 1 through 14, so it could slide a year or two down the line if somehow the Pacers wound up in the lottery. They're not going to wind up in the lottery, so their first-round draft pick for this year is goners. They don't have a lot of stuff that they can deal in order to get a return. They're not going to be able to trade a draft pick in order to get a guy. You know what I mean? Number 3, they are not one player away from an NBA championship. Most of the teams that are going to make a trade like this are going to try to get themselves better either for the future or in the present. The Pacers, they like where they're at in the present. They like where they're going to be in the future. Like I said, only one contract expiring after this season. And next year, Oladipo's contract right now, as things stand, is the only meaningful contract that's going to expire then. The Pacers are really set if they get Oladipo signed to an extension. They are set for this year, next year, and the year after that. They are in good shape. They are going to develop as a team. This is not about 2020. This is about 21 and 22 as this team can kind of grow together. The average age of the guys on this team, under 25 years old. In a couple of years, that average age is going to be 27, and you're going to have the lion's share of the members of this team all entering their prime or being immersed in their prime simultaneously. That's where you got a chance to win a championship. Not in 2020. They're not one player away unless that player was Giannis or LeBron or Kawhi, somebody like that. You go out and get one of those guys, all of a sudden, the Pacers become a favorite in the East. But you know what? That doesn't happen, and that's not going to happen under any circumstance. So let's just stop talking about it. How about number 2? Pritchard did his heavy lifting in the offseason. Kevin Pritchard did a lot of work this offseason in bringing in guys like T.J. Warren, Malcolm Brogdon, Jeremy Lamb. They drafted Goga Batanza. A lot of heavy lifting among rotational pieces and their assembly by Kevin Pritchard. That all the work that he needed to get done got done. There was nothing, there was no deal where he was kind of like, you know what? I really wish we had been able to make this deal because if we made that deal, we'd kind of be whole. They're already there. Pritchard did his work. He completed his work. He's not going to do any more work at the trade deadline that's just shuffling bodies. That isn't going to happen. Because why? Well, that brings drama, like I said. And we don't need drama. This team has kind of outperformed expectations, right? Without Victor Oladipo. So why dismantle that? Why try to augment to that? Relax, let it build, let it be organic. Number 1, Victor Oladipo is the piece the Pacers need. If he can shoot from the outside, if he can break down his guy, and you know what? We've seen Oladipo in the first 2 games. We've seen him do a lot of crappy stuff, a lot of missing shots. But what he has done is he's shown that he can get the corner on guys. And if he can get the corner on guys, he's going to make defenses have to adjust to what the Pacers do. They're going to have to collapse their defense. Oladipo's going to kick it out. Oladipo has also shown, not in these first 2 games after he's come back, that he can hit threes. And he's going to be fine doing that. Defensively, he's a guy who can lock down people, potentially. He's looked like an okay defender as he's come back to the Pacers. So what the Pacers needed, they've got. Jeremy Lamb is going to move eventually to the second unit, and when he goes there, they're going to be better. T.J. McConnell has been terrific. Doug McDermott has been terrific. I think Justin Holiday has been terrific, and Goga Batadze is going to continue to get minutes, and he's going to continue to develop. He's 20. I'm telling you, wait till this kid is 23, and you are going to see something special. They're not going to trade Goga Batadze, and I really don't think that they're going to trade Aaron Holiday unless somehow or another Holiday says, you know what, I got to go to a place where I can start. Please deal me. If he does that, then maybe he goes before the trade deadline. But those are the 5 reasons, I think, that Kevin Pritchard is going to stand pat, not do anything that is panicky with this team that's already playing really well, that Nate McMillan really likes, that Kevin really, really likes. This is a group that you can win with. And adding Victor Oladipo is part of that puzzle. Adding somebody else on top of Victor Oladipo would make it very difficult for the Pacers to compete at a high level for another number of weeks. They don't need that. We'll see how they play tonight, but I don't think that that is going to have any effect whatsoever on what the Indiana Pacers do vis-a-vis the trade deadline. A couple of pieces of news. Locally, Scott Marsh resigned as Ron Colley's football coach. He was 18-15 in his 2 seasons. He's going to Nicholasville, Kentucky, to coach a high school team there. So Ron Colley, they're looking for another guy, right? Scott Marsh, they wanted to be the replacement for Bruce Cyphers long term. It didn't work out. They're going to look for another Cyphers. It would be interesting to see if Cyphers might be interested in returning to his old gig. I would venture to guess that he will not be. The Indiana Hoosiers, they're off all week. So this is the time that Archie Miller can sit back and try to figure out just what the hell is wrong with that offense. That offense gets bogged down. They set screens, right, ball screens, and they move the cutter toward where defense is at because there are already offensive players there. You can see that. And as Archie goes back and reviews film, you know what? Indiana fans are going to do exactly the same thing. It's what we do. Right? What the hell else are Indiana fans going to do all week long? They don't have a game to look forward to until Saturday when Indiana hosts Purdue. You got to get that game. If you lose that game, this whole thing could completely come apart at the seams. I don't think it's going to. I think Indiana is going to beat Purdue, and then I think Purdue is going to beat Indiana at Mackey Arena, and that's the danger of this game is that if you lose at Simon Scott Assembly Hall, what do you project then for the game at Mackey Arena later in the month? You project a loss. You have got to find your way to 8-10 in the Big Ten heading into those last 2 games. You've got to win 3. And Purdue, you've got to split against. So winning that game Saturday afternoon at Simon Scott Assembly Hall is absolutely imperative for the Hoosiers. Also news about this game coming up on Saturday. Evidently, I don't know. Now they're saying that Bob Knight's going to go to this game, and then Hinge and Katie are going to be honored during the basketball game Indiana contest Saturday night at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. Fine. I got to tell you, for the Indiana-Ohio State game, where everybody said, oh, Knight's coming to that game, it's up to Karen, and maybe Karen will let Bob go to this game and all this crap, I just don't care anymore. I don't care if Bob Knight ever sets foot in Simon Scott Assembly Hall again. I'm worn out by all this crap. You know what? We were talking earlier about how Nate McMillan doesn't really care for drama. You know what? I don't care for drama either. And Bob Knight coming back to Simon Scott Assembly Hall is drama. It would have been fun drama before. If it happens this Saturday, I just don't give a damn less anymore. I'm tired of being manipulated and worked in order to provide positive, spin toward Bob Knight and his return to Bloomington. And, he came to a baseball game, and here he's going to come to Assembly Hall. Well, no, he goes to a Marian University game because Steve Downing is the athletic director. Well, I just don't give a damn anymore. If Bob Knight comes to the game, great. If he doesn't come to the game, great. He's one of 17,000 fans who's going to show up at Simon Scott Assembly Hall to watch Indiana take on Purdue. I want to see Indiana win that game. Who's in attendance for that game, I could give a damn less. So Bob Knight can, whatever he wants to do, and then we're going to do whatever we want to do, and we're all going to live happily ever after. How about that? the Indianapolis Colts. Let's talk about the Colts for a minute, because I think any Colts fan who watched the Super Bowl last night was kind of had one eye on the game and one eye on, okay, what do the Colts need in order to get back there? It's been 10 years, right, since they've played in a Super Bowl. What do they need in order to find their way back to the Super Bowl? And I think that question's easily answered. And you saw it last night. You need an elite-level quarterback. And Jacoby Brissett, God bless him, he is not an elite-level quarterback. He is a guy, the guys who cheer him, right, his fans, what they say is, hey, I'll tell you what about Jacoby Brissett. You're not going to win because of him, but you won't lose because of him either. Okay, well, that's great. That's how you wind up 8-8, right? Jacoby Brissett is quarterback for the Colts. He's not going to win you games late in the way that Patrick Mahomes did last night for the Chiefs. Mahomes is the reason that the Chiefs are world champs. There's no doubt about that. Andy Reid, wonderful. Nice play calls throughout. That defense, they were good enough. Jimmy Garoppolo was okay. That was the difference. That's the point of differentiation that really, really mattered, is that Jimmy Garoppolo, when the chips were down, he couldn't make the big pass to Emmanuel Sanders where he was open, and that would have changed that game and given the 49ers an opportunity to win it. On the other hand, Patrick Mahomes did exactly that. Tyreek Hill, really interesting play design, as we saw this morning on Get Up, where Dan Orlovsky kind of explained it. Tyreek Hill moved in a way that the defensive backs didn't think he would. He was wide open. Mahomes hit him. Mahomes hit the plays, and that was on a 3rd and 15. Mahomes hit the plays necessary to win the Super Bowl. The Colts, they don't have that guy. They got to find that guy. In the meantime, keep getting faster on defense. Find a defensive tackle as a guy who can collapse the pocket a little bit and stop the run. You can do that with that 13th overall pick. You need more weapons. Maybe you can address that in free agency. The Colts, they've got the 13th overall pick. They got 34, and I think they got 39. Is that right? And then they've got $90 million plus in cap money. So they can go out and get what they need. That's up to Chris Ballard. This is the offseason of great importance for Chris Ballard. If he does his job at an exceptionally high level, the Colts are going to be back in the playoffs next year, and they're going to be good enough that you think, you know what, maybe they could make a little bit of a run. They aren't that far away. They got the offensive line. I think they got some defensive backs that check boxes. They got a good linebacker core. Marlon Mack's fine. T.Y. Hilton's fine. Jack Doyle is fine. Mo Ali Cox, fine. They need guys who can pressure the quarterback, and they need weaponry starting with an elite level or a potentially elite level quarterback. They get those things done, they got a chance to do some damage. If they ride into next season with Jacoby Brissett as the starter, we know what that leads to. That leads to fourth quarter collapses because Jacoby Brissett isn't good enough to answer the better quarterbacks in the NFL touchdown for touchdown. This has been Sports Nothing But Sports. Boy, we talked about a lot of stuff, didn't we? Tomorrow, I'll tell you what, it's going to be a great morning, Breakfast with Kent. That's what we got on Facebook Live, and then Periscope, which is also available on my Twitter feed at Kent Sterling. Want to remind you, you can pick up my book, Oops, The Art of Learning from Mistakes and Adventures. It's available, Amazon.com. Just search Oops and Kent, and up will pop the yellow and red cover. It's wonderful. If you like laughing at the misfortune of others, there's a lot of misfortune that befell me because of my own stupidity that I think you're going to get a big bang out of. All right? So go ahead and do that. We'll talk to you tomorrow afternoon. Hopefully we're celebrating a Pacers victory and looking ahead to Purdue and Butler winning in the middle of the week this week, and looking ahead also to a home against the Toronto Raptors for the Indiana Pacers. It's going to be crucial. We'll do that. We'll start looking ahead to that tomorrow morning. Like I said, Breakfast with Kent brought to you by the great people at Today's Dentistry. Join me.